So, you're American? We don't want you here. Are you surprised? You shouldn't be. Despite the global reach of American culture and the power of the U.S. passport, there are still places where being American does not guarantee you a warm welcome. For a range of political, historical, and security reasons, certain countries in 2025 have grown increasingly difficult, and in some cases, outright dangerous, for U.S. citizens to enter or navigate. In this video, we're taking a serious look at 10 countries where Americans are not welcome in 2025. If you value your safety and freedom of movement, you'll want to pay close attention to what lies ahead. Number 1. North Korea. North Korea, officially the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, is perhaps the most closed country on Earth with a population of around 25 million. For Americans, the door to this nation is all but shut. Since September 1, 2017, U.S. passports have been restricted from use in North Korea, except with special State Department approval. The risk of long-term detention is high, as tragically demonstrated in the case of Otto Warmbier, an American student who died after being imprisoned there for attempting to take a propaganda poster. Even before the travel ban, American visitors were required to join controlled tour groups, monitored constantly by government guides. Unauthorized interaction with locals or taking the wrong photograph can result in arrest. In North Korea, there is no room for error, and no freedom to move, speak, or act outside of state-approved parameters. With over 83 million people, Iran is a nation steeped in history, culture, and complexity. But for Americans, it remains a geopolitical flashpoint. Tensions between Iran and the United States date back decades, most notably to the 1979 hostage crisis. In 2025, the U.S. maintains a Level 4 travel advisory against visiting Iran. American citizens, particularly dual nationals, risk arrest or detention on charges like espionage or threats to national security. The visa process for Americans can take months and often results in denial. Those who are approved must work through Iranian tour agencies and are often accompanied by government-approved guides. Credit cards don't work, and access to financial services is extremely limited. Even with its rich cultural offerings, Iran remains one of the most legally and politically perilous destinations for Americans. Number 3. Iraq. Iraq, with a population of around 40 million, continues to experience significant instability in 2025. Though the war officially ended years ago, the lingering effects of the 2003 US-led invasion still resonate. While some Americans may obtain visas upon arrival at select airports, exiting the country requires separate bureaucratic approval. The process is unpredictable and in some cases intimidating. Widespread corruption, the presence of armed militias, and allegations of human rights abuses within detention centers make Iraq a particularly hostile environment for U.S. travelers. For most Americans, entering Iraq involves more than just paperwork. It involves real physical and political risk. Number 4. Afghanistan. Afghanistan, with a population of around 38 million, remains one of the most dangerous places in the world for Americans in 2025. The U.S. withdrawal in 2021 and the return of the Taliban to power have drastically altered the security landscape. The U.S. Department of State strongly advises against all travel, citing a high risk of terrorism, kidnapping, wrongful detention, and general lawlessness. Even with proper documentation, Americans can face deportation, confiscation of their passports, or worse. Tourist visas are rare and usually granted only with official letters of invitation from Afghan ministries. For most Americans, entry is simply not worth the risk. Number 5. Syria. Syria, once known for its cultural treasures and ancient cities, has been ravaged by civil war for more than a decade. With large parts of the country still in conflict zones, the U.S. government urges citizens not to travel there under any circumstance. The government of Syria maintains a deeply adversarial stance toward the United States, driven by years of sanctions, military confrontations, and geopolitical opposition. For Americans, obtaining a visa is almost impossible, and even if entry is granted, the risks are extreme. Arbitrary arrest, surveillance, and exposure to active conflict. Americans traveling in Syria are often viewed not as tourists, but as representatives of a government seen as hostile. Number 6. Libya. With a population of about 7 million, Libya in 2025 remains in a fragile and volatile state. The U.S. Department of State maintains a Level 4 travel advisory, its most severe warning, against travel due to terrorism, civil unrest, and kidnapping. Libya's relationship with the United States has been rocky for decades. Events like the 2012 attack on the U.S. diplomatic compound in Benghazi continue to cast long shadows. The visa process for Americans is highly restrictive, and the country does not allow entry to travelers with Israeli stamps in their passports. For American citizens, visiting Libya isn't just discouraged, it's a potentially life-threatening decision. Number 7. Venezuela. Venezuela, a country of over 28 million, continues to suffer from economic collapse, political instability, and strained relations with the United States. U.S.-imposed sanctions and long-standing diplomatic rifts have made travel increasingly difficult for Americans. By August 2023, more than 7.7 million Venezuelans had fled the country. For American travelers in 2025, the visa process is not only complicated, but may include delays, denials, or outright rejection. Even for those granted entry, day-to-day interactions can be tense due to skepticism toward foreigners, particularly those from the U.S. Despite a sizable American expat community, especially in Caracas, there is an unmistakable feeling of being under watch in a nation deeply divided by politics and economic despair. Number 8. Somalia. Somalia, home to roughly 15 million people, presents a particularly dangerous environment for Americans in 2025. The instability in Somalia is long-standing, but U.S. involvement in counterterrorism operations, including the 2022 redeployment of U.S. troops to fight al-Shabaab, has only worsened public sentiment toward Americans. For travelers, the security risks are real: bombings, targeted violence, and general lawlessness in many regions. The visa process is arduous, and once inside the country, American visitors may find themselves under heightened surveillance or even targeted due to their nationality. With limited infrastructure, serious food insecurity, and few safety guarantees, Somalia remains an extremely high-risk destination for U.S. citizens. Number 9. Yemen. Yemen, with a population nearing 30 million, is another nation where Americans are strongly advised not to travel. The country has been ravaged by civil war since 2015 and is now grappling with one of the world's worst humanitarian crises. The U.S. government's advisory could not be more direct: do not travel. The risks include terrorism, armed conflict, kidnapping, and severe shortages of food, fuel, and medicine. Even attempting to secure a visa as an American is an uphill battle. Due to perceived U.S. involvement in regional conflicts and drone strikes, American visitors, if admitted, are likely to be met with mistrust or worse. Number 10. Myanmar. In 2025, Myanmar, a Southeast Asian country with a population of just under 55 million, remains in a state of deep political unrest. Following a military coup in February 2021, the country has experienced widespread conflict, suppression of dissent, and humanitarian crises. The U.S. Department of State continues to advise against travel to Myanmar, citing the risk of arbitrary arrest, limited access to healthcare, and an overall breakdown of public order. For Americans, the visa process is complex, often requiring 3 or more working days, assuming it is even granted. On top of that, the US has imposed sanctions on Myanmar, further souring the diplomatic climate. American travelers may not only find it difficult to get in, but could also face increased scrutiny and hostility once they arrive. These 10 countries present serious challenges both politically and personally for US citizens in 2025. While each has its own culture and history, the risks of traveling to these destinations should not be underestimated. Americans considering international travel should always consult State Department advisories and consider both diplomatic tensions and on-the-ground realities. If this video helped you better understand the world we live in, we ask you to consider giving it a like. And for those curious about global safety, our next video covers the 20 most dangerous cities in Europe and what you need to know before stepping foot in any of them. Stay safe, travel wisely,